Hey guys, name's Paul. I'm a woodworker. Been a woodworker for well over 30 years. Um, in this video, I'm going to show you how to polyurethane detailed surfaces. I'm actually going to do my front door. It was a good time to do this project. I created a video probably 5, 6 years ago. It was it was my first video. It was on bubble-free polyurethane application, and it averages it's about 13,000 views a month to say. But I got a lot of comments asking me, well, I didn't watch the video. Now I got bubbles and puddles and runs and brush marks and all that other stuff. And what do I do? And so I created a video called Fixing Polyurethane Bubbles, Puddles, Runs, and Brush Marks. And unfortunately, it has about 7,000 views a month. So that tells you something's wrong. Following the directions on the can or watching a quickie video isn't the solution. The process isn't difficult, nor is it complicated, but somebody has to show you proper technique and proper procedure and thinning and sanding and all that other stuff. So hang on, this video is long, but what I did is because it's so long, I broke it down into parts so that you can follow. You can do a section at a time, or you can do the whole thing, whatever you want. But it'll give you a nice outline and a step-by-step procedure, and it'll result in a flawless video. So whether you're doing a door like I am, a lot of people ask about 6-panel doors, or you're doing kitchen cabinets, or you're doing some piece of furniture, or you're doing twisty spindles on the legs on your table, it all applies. You just have to kind of tweak it to your particular surface and your particular need. So again, what I'm going to do is in one of the corners, I'll put a link to my website, and on the website I'll have a material list. It's a downloadable PDF. You can print it out and keep it on the side. On there, I'll put materials. I'll put some of the basic rules that you need to follow. And what I'll do is I'll outline this video because it's broken into sections. So whatever section you're on, you can go back and you can review that section, or you can watch it for the first time. You can complete a section and go on and on and on. So again, please don't be upset about the length. I do tend to make longer videos if you've watched any of my other videos. But if you read the comments, everybody's pretty happy. I'm pretty thorough. I'm pretty meticulous about. I'm a pretty detailed guy. So I'm going to pass those details on to you, and you're going to get a great finish. I promise you. Let's get started. Let's go back into the shop, and I'll get the door down, and we'll get going on it. Happy woodworking. Sandpaper, I went over it real quick. Doesn't take a lot. We just need to make sure, and then dust it real well. I used an air compressor. I blew off as much as I could, and then tack cloth it very lightly. The key is when you tack cloth it, make sure you tack cloth it very, very lightly. Tack cloth has sticky substance on it. You don't want that substance to stick to it. Next thing I'm going to do is any repairs. This is a veneer door. This is an exterior door, obviously, and it's veneered. It's an oak veneer. Nothing wrong with a veneer door. Everybody thinks, well, solid oak, solid oak, solid oak. The problem with solid oak is, especially on an outside door, is with the temperature and humidity changes seasonally, wood tends to expand and contract. A veneer core, because of the way it's plied, doesn't have that expansion and contraction, so it's perfectly fine. This is where the door opens, and I notice there's a little bit of the veneer coming off. I don't know if you can see this or not, but what I'm going to do is the first thing you want to do is start with little repairs. So I'm going to take a little bit of wood glue. I'm going to take a little wood glue. I'm going to raise it up just a little bit, and I'm going to glue it. I'm not overly concerned about excess glue because I'm going to be putting polyurethane on it anyway. If I were staining it, I'd be real worried about it because the problem with wood glue is if you put a stain on top of wood glue, the wood glue will prevent the stain from absorbing, so you'll have glue marks. So, but again, since I'm polyurethaning, I'm put a clear coat on this. It's not going to be a huge deal. Okay, I'm going to give that about 30 minutes to set up, and while we're doing that, I'll show you how to mix up your urethane. I'm going to be using a Spar urethane, Spar Varnish. I'm sorry, the same difference, Spar urethane. You don't want to use classic polyurethane on an exterior surface for two reasons. Number one, it doesn't expand and contract well, so it has a tendency to crack and peel. Secondly, ultraviolet rays. There's no blockers in it. If you use a Spar Varnish, which is a urethane that's been treated chemically, it's a little softer, so what it'll do is it'll expand and contract when the weather changes and your wood changes direction or opens up a little bit, the pores open up. And also, it'll block any UV rays. So let me get set up and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, let's mix up a batch of polyurethane. I'm using a Spar Varnish. The brand doesn't really matter that much. If you look at the back of the label, it will tell you, look for where it says clean up. It says clean up with mineral spirits or turpentine. So that tells me this is an oil-based product. Usually the can will say that it's oil-based, but if it doesn't, just always go to the back. If it says clean up with soap and water, then it's a water-based polyurethane. In the case of a water-based polyurethane, you're going to thin it with water. In the case of an oil-based polyurethane, you're going to thin it with mineral spirits. Okay, so this is an oil-based, so we'll be using mineral spirits. I thought I had an opener here. Second rule, let's talk about that. Is in getting a good finish is a good brush. This is a finish brush. It's not a paintbrush. Paintbrushes are thin and cheap. Rollers don't work. Foam applicators don't work. What else could you possibly use? Rags. If you thin it far enough down, you can use a rag. But I think it's just a good brush. You're putting on a little thicker coat. A good brush. This happens to be 50. No, I'm sorry, not 50%. 60% ox hair and 40% China bristle. But a good China bristle brush will do it. It doesn't necessarily have to be ox hair. Notice the thickness of this and the softness. This is natural animal hair. You want a natural bristle brush for oil-based product, and you would use a nylon or a synthetic brush for a water-based product. But both of them should be this thick. Both of them should look kind of like this. Okay, so a good brush will give you a good finish. The other thing I mentioned already is thin it. We're going to send this 3 parts varnish to 1 part mineral spirits. Okay. What happens is because of the new laws with volatile organic chemicals, most states have to have emissions regulations, and so what they've done is they've reduced the amount of thinners in the polyurethane. Which makes it real thick and syrupy, almost like molasses. Too thick to get a good coat. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it back to the way it used to be. We're going to thin it down with mineral spirits to the appropriate amount. Okay. All right. The key with polyurethane is or any kind of varnish, we never shake the can. When we shake the can, we're introducing air bubbles into it. So we want to gently stir it. And what will happen, let me show you. See the glops on there? Can you see that? Yeah, I think you can on camera, right? Okay, let me bring it a little closer. That's the resins. And what happens is when a varnish sits for a while, it separates. And all the resins are on the bottom. So what we have to do is we do have to do a good thorough mixing. Now, again, we notice I'm doing slow and gentle. I'm not shaking it. I'm not doing any rapid movements. What I don't want to do is get air in the polyurethane, because then it'll start to appear on your surface. So it's thinning down already. So we want to make sure those resins are well mixed. While I'm doing that, at your local dollar store, you can buy a mixing cup. It should be wide enough so your brush comfortably fits in there, okay? All right, so I'm gently going to pour. All right. So I'm gently going to pour. All right. Okay. And again, the ratio is 3 to 1, and then we're gently going to mix it. Don't worry. There's a few bubbles on top, but they'll break up. Don't worry about making too much, because what we'll do is we're gonna do a couple coats. So what we'll do is we'll seal this in a container, and we'll use it next time too. So again, just make sure it's mixed. Okay, there we go. And put that on the side. You know, one thing I always do is make sure that all the paint or varnish or whatever the product is out of the rim. What happens is it prevents a good seal, and the liquid will eventually dry out, and it'll become crusty, and it could get into your paint or polyurethane. So it just take a couple minutes and get rid of this here. Okay, everybody kind of freaks out. I have a video. It's called Bubble-Free Polyurethane Application, and it's one of the most popular videos on YouTube for polyurethane. But I go through a whole wash list, and I still get a lot of questions because my demonstration happened to be on a flat surface, and so everybody freaks out because grain patterns change, and when they do doors or they do fancier stuff. So this is a nice one because I'll show you how. This is about doors, so I'll show you how to do a door. What we're going to do is we're not going to start with the flat surfaces. We're going to start with all the trim work and all the fenestrations. So I'll start around the inside moldings. What I want to do is I don't want to start over on this side because I may have to lean or do something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the furthest that I can comfortably reach at, okay, and work my way towards myself, so that way that surface is already done, and I don't have to worry about it, okay? All right. So when you dip the brush, you're not gonna douse it in. All you want is a little bit of the tip wet. You don't want the whole brush wet. You certainly don't want it to get up into the furrow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip it in slightly, and then I'm going to let it drip off. I'm not going to push the brushes off to the sides. I'm not going to shake it vigorously. I'm not going to do anything that might introduce more air into the bristles or in between the bristles, because I don't want bubbles on my surface. So we're just gently going to place it in. Again, I'm dipping up maybe about a 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to let it drip off. Again, I'm not going to shake it. I'm not going to, you can shake it a little bit, but not vigorously. Okay, you can see it's still dripping out. I don't want, a good brush, one of the keys of a good brush is it holds a lot of product. Okay, it doesn't run. There it goes. It's about done now. Okay, it holds a lot of product so that you're not constantly redipping and redipping and redipping. So a good brush will hold product. I'm going to start in the middle. Okay, and what happens is there is a lot of product on this. In the brush. And I'm just going to work my way around. I'm going to come back over the thick area because I want to move that product. I want to thin it around. What happens is when you first put it down, it drops a lot of, will drop a lot of product no matter what. So what we have to do is take away some of that excess and spread it out a little bit. And that's kind of this procedure here. Notice I'm not pressing down on the brush. I'm not using hard presses. I'm just kind of laying the brush down and moving it around. Okay, this is a little bit of a reach for me. I'm going to come on the other side. This is pretty high. This piece of molding here is raised pretty high. Okay, that looks good. No, I can see now, coming around the other side, I can see where it didn't put it down in close to the glass. So we're going to come in here and we're going to do that. Okay, that's done. I'm not going to do anything more to that. I'm not going to keep stretching it or trying to play with it. What's happening is it's already starting a little bit of the drying process, and the more you play with it now, if you do introduce air into it, that air will stick. If you do introduce if you do have puddles and things like that, and you try to move them, you can play with it for maybe about 5 minutes. On an oil-based polyurethane, on a water-based polyurethane, you got to be pretty darn quick. You got a couple minutes before it starts to set up. It sets up real fast. Okay, I'm going to move to the next area. I'm going to move this off. Off the table. Okay, you saw the dipping process, so I'll dip again, very lightly. And I'm going to start in the middle of the run that I want to make. So I'm going to start right here. I'll move to my right. I'm not worried about crossing grain patterns because it doesn't, that old stuff is you have to go with the grain. Yeah, you have to go with the grain because it hides brush marks. But when you thin the polyurethane this much and you use a good brush, you're not going to have brush marks. So I'm not really worried about crossing grain patterns. Okay, see what I did? What I did is I put it in the middle because it dropped a lot of product there, and then I went this way, and then I came back and I went not quite to the middle, a little bit over the middle where it's wet, and I dragged it across that way. Now what I'm going to do, this I call the feather stroke. I'm just going to lay it down at one end. Well, let's lay it down at this end because this was the thicker end, and I'm just going to I'm not putting any pressure. I'm just letting the weight of the brush, and I'm going to drag it across. And that's it. I'm done. Don't do any more. Okay? But I have hardware here. So what I'm going to do is my brush has not been soaked, so there's not a lot of polyurethane in it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this to my advantage, and I'm going to go around my hardware. We'll get that done while there isn't a lot of polyurethane on it. Perfect. See, if I would have dipped it before I did this, it'd be flowing all over the place. The key to a good finish on furniture, on doors, on anything you do is to lay it on thin. Thin coats. Thickness, protection, protection is offered by thickness, but thickness is built up in layers. It's not all at once. Okay? I'm gonna, now real quick, I'm gonna feather this whole thing out. Look at that. That's feathering. That's one time around, but then I'm gonna leave it alone, because the more you play with it, the more you're gonna introduce problems. Okay, now, I don't know if you can see, there's little bubbles there. What I'm going to do is, I think for all intent and purposes, I think there's too much poly in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag some of it out on it. I've got a clean paper towel. I'm going to drag some of it out. Now I'm going to do my I'm going to do my feather coat. There it goes. There went the bubbles. Okay. There it goes. There it goes. All right, we're done. Leave it alone. People screw up because they play with it too much. They notice things. They start seeing things. Oh, there's tiny little bubbles there. Don't worry about tiny little bubbles, especially in an oil-based polyurethane. They will pop. And if they're tiny, and when I say tiny, let's define tiny. Pinhead. If they're bigger than a pinhead, we got problem bubbles. If they're smaller than a pinhead, leave them alone. What'll happen is typically they will pop on their own, or secondly, if they're tiny enough, we can sand them out successfully. If they're too big, we can't sand them out. So again, use the pinhead as kind of your gauge as to the size of the bubble. I'm going to do the bottom part of the door. Now, with this brush, I'm just going to stay with the brush because again, I don't want too much polyurethane in my brush. Again, we want thin coats. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to use what's in my brush. Kind of cool because you can see it turns wet looking. And once it's wet looking, you know you've put enough polyurethane on. Notice, no, this is not painting. It's not back and forth strokes. It's a stroke in one direction. Maybe again, if you just dipped your brush, we're going to do a little overlap, and then a final feather. This is the final feather. Okay. Now the manufacturer says I can reapply if I do it within 4 hours. I don't do that. I'm going to let this dry overnight. And the reason I let it dry overnight is because the next day I want to be able to rub my hand over it. I want to be able to hold it to a light and look at different lights. I'm looking for imperfections because if there's any imperfections, I can correct them easily, immediately. If I put another coat on top of the imperfections, and another coat, then what I'm doing is I'm going through 2 and 3 coats to try to correct the imperfections. So I want to be able to look at it, touch it, feel it, because if within 3 hours it's still going to be tacky, and you certainly can't sand it. Tomorrow I'll be able to if I find imperfections, I'll be able to do a light sanding. I'll be able to get rid of them, and then I can put my next coat down. Okay. Now, a lot of people ask me, what do you do with your brush? Can you wrap it in foil, put it in the refrigerator, put it in a plastic bag, soak it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. No. If you got a good brush, well, I can't say no. For me, I clean it. I'll soak this brush in mineral spirits 3, 4, maybe 5 times in clean mineral spirits. Then I'll go to my kitchen sink and I'll use dishwashing soap. I'll manually through my hand until I see soap bubbles, because what'll happen, there'll be mineral spirits in your brush, and it won't lather, so you'll know it's not clean. When it starts to lather like soap should lather, you know, when you fill a sponge with it and you're washing dishes, when it starts to lather, then you know it's clean. Then what I'll do is I'll do it one more time. I'll rinse it thoroughly with water. Oh, by the way, I take a nylon scrub brush, and I'll just, like you're combing your hair, I'll comb through it with the soap before I start rinsing it. Okay. All right, and then I'll rinse it out again. Then I rinse it good with water, and I hand spin it, obviously very fast. I don't want to do it fast because I might splash stuff around. But I'll spin it out. I'll hang it to dry. Okay, hang it down to dry. That's my routine. Every time I use it. This is a good brush. It's an expensive brush. My last brush lasted me 20 some years. This is a pretty new brush. This will last me 20 some years too, because I take care of it. There's excess polyurethane. There's enough here for 3 coats. So what I'm going to do is I keep old yogurt containers, clean them out, store them in my garage. I'll put that in there. Put the lid on it. It's ready for use tomorrow. Okay? All right. See you tomorrow. Okay, we've got our first coat down. I'm gonna do a light sanding, and I want you to pay attention to how quick and how fast I go through this. This is not a heavy sanding. What we need to do is just create a little bit of scratch. The other thing we want to do is, if there's any imperfections, and this is why I like to let it dry overnight, because I like to rub my hands over it, and I like to feel you'll feel little dust nibs. You might feel, in a perfect world, you'd be in a dust-free environment, but that's a perfect world. And most of us aren't in a perfect world. You'll see small bubbles or feel small bubbles. You want to look at it from different angles and feel it and touch it, and that's why we let it dry overnight. We don't put it. If we put another coat down while it's still wet, the manufacturer said you can probably do it within 4 hours. Most manufacturers say 4 hours. You're just putting another coat of polyurethane over a defective coat. So this is the time to get rid of it. Again, pay attention to how fast and how quick this sanding is. I'm using a 220 grit sandpaper. You can use a 180 grit as well if you don't have 220 grit. Anything higher than a 220, you'll be polishing the wood. You don't want to polish it. We do want to remove some of a little bit, or at least scratch some of the surface. And anything below a 180 grit, what will happen is you'll leave deep scratches, and those scratches will show up. 180 and to 220, the polyurethane fills the little scratch marks so that they become non-apparent and non-visible. Okay, again, pay attention to how fast I do this. Okay, it's not a long process. Okay, that's it. We're done. What you want? I'm going to take a by hand, and I'll just fold up a piece of sandpaper and just do a very light over all the detail work. Again, don't go crazy. You don't have to sand every inch of it. The polyurethane will still stick. It's not gonna flake or crack or anything else. So. But in this area, the sander wouldn't fit in, so I'll do that a little bit by hand. I'll do a little bit by hand in some of the areas where I couldn't get the sander in. But that's it. That's what you want to do, and you want to feel it. You know, if you still feel some bubbles or some dust nibs, now's a good time to take those out. Okay, that's it. What I'm going to do is now I'll finish sanding this off with a little bit of a by hand, and then what I'll do is I'll take, since this is oil based, what I'll do is I'll soak a paper towel in. I'm going to blow it off with my air compressor. I'll blow what dust is off there, and then I'll take a paper towel and I'll soak it a little bit in mineral spirits and give it a quick wipe down. And that towel, my hands are full of it, but that towel will be full of the white powder from the sanded polyurethane. If you're using a water-based polyurethane, wet the rag, wet your paper towel with a little bit of water, and it's not, you're not washing the surface, just a dampness, so that what it'll do is it'll pick up all the dust. Okay, I'm gonna do a little bit of the hand stuff, and then I'll show you the wipe down. Okay, that's it. I'm going to let this dry now, and then once the mineral spirits is dried off, we're ready to proceed with the second coat. Okay, so we're ready for our second coat. What you'll want to have is a paper towel, a dry paper towel around, so that if when you're feathering and you got excess polyurethane, you can just wipe a little bit of the polyurethane out of the brush, so the brush is reasonably dry. And remember, I'm going to start at the far end, because if I need to reach and I touch something, I don't want to touch an area that I've just urethane. And again, the dip is very light. I don't know if I can show you this on the camera or not, but I dip about a 1/4 inch of the brush into the poly, and then I let it drip out. Okay. Yesterday there was a release of quite a bit of polyurethane, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just touch this to my paper towel a little bit and get a little bit of the excess out. And again, we'll start pretty much in the same spot. And we start with the detail part first, the molding. Okay. I'm going to dip again. Again, only about a 1/4 inch. Let it drip out until you get the feel of how much your brush is holding. You can just touch it to your paper towel. Start in the middle. I'm moving to my right. What I'll do now is I'll come a little bit to the right of where I started, and I'm going to drag through, because remember, when you first put your brush down, it's going to have a tendency to put a little more polyurethane down. It'll puddle a little bit, okay? All right, so I did that, and then I'm going to feather once, come across all the way, and we're done. I'm not going to dip the brush again, because I don't need that much polyurethane, and I think there's a good amount in the brush. And you can always go back and dip if there isn't. I'm just going to do the next level of trim. Pretty much it. Not a difficult process, okay? And now at this point I'm going to do this run, but let's do the cut-ins first while the brush is still semi-wet. I didn't dip again because I don't want to lay down a brush that's full of polyurethane in an area where I'm trimming, because what will happen is it'll lay down too much polyurethane. Remember, lay it on thin. That's the #1 rule for all finishes. The thinner the better. So you're going to build your thickness in the coats from multiple coats, not from one coat laid down very thick. Yeah, it doesn't work. Okay? All right, we're going to do our long run. I'm going to dip again. Let it drip out. Okay, come halfway. Left to right. Overlap. And come down, right to left. Okay? There's enough polyurethane in the brush so I don't have to re-dip. All right, now what I want to do is I want to feather, and there's still quite a bit of polyurethane in this brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wipe out a little bit of the excess, because I want this to be a dry run. Pretty much a dry brush. It's not going to be a dry brush, but it won't be a saturated brush. And we're going to run once across the entire surface. Okay, that's it. All right, let's come around. Prefer, it doesn't matter. And again, you don't have to worry about going across the grain or with the grain. Again, that's to hide brush marks. But because we're laying it down so thin, there shouldn't be any brush marks. Okay, so I'm going to just do this little section here. And then I'm going to feather all the way across very lightly. There isn't a lot of polyurethane in that brush. Okay, now that's that section. Pretty fast when you do it this way. I mean, it doesn't take a long time. I'll dip. Let it drip. Okay. And so I'm going to do, this is what's a door? Average 7 feet. So I'm going to do a full run, 7 foot. Look at that. Start in the middle. Overlap where you first put down. Okay. Still looks to be a good amount of polyurethane. You can tell because it's wet. Still appears to be a good amount of polyurethane in the brush, so I don't have to re-dip. And come across. All right. And now we'll feather once all the way down. Very lightly. I'm just dragging the brush. I'm not putting any pressure on the brush. I just set it down, kind of like at a 30, 45 degree angle, and I drag it across. Done. Okay? All right, you get the idea? I'm going to finish up the door, and then we'll take a look when we're all done. Okay, coating is done. I'm gonna. Oh, I see a brush hair in there. Coating is done, so I'm gonna leave it alone now. There's a hair from the bristle from the brush. Okay. I'm going to leave it alone now. We'll let it dry out. We'll let it set up, and then we'll come back and take a look at it when it's dry tomorrow. By the way, this may be the final coat. I may decide to put another coat on. I'll see how this one turns out. If this is the final coat, I'm not going to sand after the final coat. So you sand between coats, but not after the final coat. You just want to leave it alone. So that final coat has to be put down very thin so that you don't get the problem areas. You don't get the puddles, the runs, and the bubbles, because there will be no sanding now. So we'll be done. So this is the final project. I ended up putting the last coat on while the door was hanging because there was severe storms and threatened rain, and I didn't want to. I just had my doorway covered with plastic, so I wanted some protection. So we hung the door. When I put it up after 2 coats, I thought, it really could use a 3rd coat. So I put the 3rd coat on in a vertical position, and as a result, I had a run. I'll show you the run. Then I brushed it out, and here's the technique that I used to brush it out. You can see in the corner right there, I'll put a circle around it where the run mark was. But again, that's an imperfection, but it's a better imperfection than a drip mark. Better choice. There you have it. That's how to finish a door. I'll be sure to subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, please post. I'm pretty good about answering them. I usually get back to you within the same day, or at least by the next day. So happy woodworking. That's how to finish a door.